Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up.
Hello. Hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? Reading glasses. Oh It's not recording when you need it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Richard, you're good with your script?
What?
You're good with the script for your ordinance?
I don't. I didn't. I didn't really look at it. You'll give me.
Just read it. Where's it sponsored?
What part am I going to read? The.
Sponsored.
You have the script.
Oh,
You bring your stuff.
yeah, I did. Too much stuff. Let's get rid of Okay, let me just see. 'Cause I was skipping through them last night.
Good evening, everyone. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place this evening, 7:30 p.m. at Tuesday, March 3rd. Please stand to salute the flag. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to approve the February 4th Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll start with reports. I think I'll go first.
Great.
Okay. The plastic reduction ordinance. There will be 2 information sessions regarding the plastic reduction ordinance 2547-19 that was passed last year and will be effective in the township beginning on June 12th. These information sessions regarding the plastic reduction plan will be held on Thursday, March 5th at the library. There will be 2 sessions, one from 11 a.m. to noon and the second from 7 to 8 p.m. These sessions are for the entire Millburn Short Hills community, both businesses and residential. There are some flyers on the table that summarize the ordinance, and I encourage you all to come out and attend. Paper Mill Studios. The paper mill will be expanding their footprint in Millburn with an opening of a new studio for theater and dance instruction in the old bike shop. There will be a ribbon cutting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I also want to share that the community is invited to an educational open house on Saturday, March 14th, featuring free classes for all students ages 6 to 15. Spots are free, but you must sign up online in advance, tinyurl.com/PMP Studios. So that's tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. If anyone's around, please join us. Happy to report that the excitement is building for our CETA event and Millburn Founding Day. So that will take place at the Bauer Center 1 to 4 on Sunday, March 15th. There'll be music, the mood swings, the poet section, Big Romance, and Midnight Sun, all our local performers. All residents are welcome. It is free. There'll be food, there'll be pizza, there'll be prizes, there'll be door prizes, games, music. Come listen to the local musicians, meet your neighbors, rain or shine. On February 29th, last Saturday, I had the pleasure of attending the Boy Scouts induction ceremony for Eagle Scouts. 6 young men from Millburn, Troop 17 at St. Rose of Lima. I was honored to be there, and these 6 elite young men, Gabe Lufschitz, Samil Argawal, Thomas Beecham, Matthew Kirschenbaum, Colin Waros, and Liam Pilarski. So congratulations to those young men. On February 21st, Rawway River watershed update. On February 21st, several members of the Mayor's Rawway River Coalition, including myself and Alex McDonald, met with the Mayor Warren of Orange and members of his staff to invite them into the discussions regarding the possible alternatives regarding flood mitigation. These solutions included the possibility of installing a bypass at the Orange Reservoir. It's an important step that the City of Orange was included, and we want to continue these conversations that involve their properties. The meeting was fruitful. We have some valuable input, and a follow-up meeting is now scheduled for March 20th at the City of Orange Township, and a subsequent meeting will be held here in Millburn on April 1st at 6 p.m. to follow up on those findings. Coronavirus. I was on a call this morning with Governor Murphy, Health Commissioner Judy Priscilli, Assistant Commissioner Chris Newworth, Dr. Tan, the state epidemiologist. Happy to report there are no cases in New Jersey. 8 people have been tested, and the response they were shown were negative. As Governor Murphy said, this is no time to panic, but a time to be prepared. Recommendations are to follow the CDC guidelines, which I'll discuss in a few minutes. Also noteworthy is that while we were on the call with Governor Murphy, New Jersey Transit announced that they will be putting forth aggressive cleaning service mandates on all surfaces of trains and their stations. Governor Murphy also spoke with the Port Authority officials, and he anticipates a similar response. On the table over there is a list of resources from the state and web links for the updated information. There is a 24-hour hotline that is available in multiple languages for any residents that have questions. That's 800-222-1222. And there's an email address also set up that if you want to respond, that's ncovid@doh.nj.health.gov. I also want to noteworthy is that the township also participated in a call on February 28th from Essex County officials regarding the coronavirus. This call was also about preparation and prevention, not panic. County officials assured the municipalities that there will be more countywide calls going forward, and that the most prudent action is to disseminate this reliable information. A fact sheet of Essex County has also been posted in the website, and it's also available on this table, and is both from our local officials as well as county officials. As many of you are aware, if you have children in our school system, the Board of Ed also made a statement last Wednesday, also following the CDC guidelines, which I just want to kind of review very briefly. Cover your coughs and sneezes with a tissue and into your sleeve, not into your hands. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, especially after coughing and sneezing. Keep your children home when they are sick, and do not return until they are fever-free for a minimum of 24 hours. Get a flu shot if you haven't gotten one, it's not too late, and clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces and objects. Additionally, some of our local residents have set up an anonymous support group for individuals, families that may be impacted by this virus, and are going through some home isolation and self-monitoring. They're calling themselves the Millburn Short Hills Health Support Network. And it's over 80 individuals in our community who have volunteered to assist their neighbors that are going through this self-imposed quarantine. And they can be, and what they've done is they've divided themselves into 5 geographic groups based on the elementary schools. This is all anonymous. They can be reached at mshhealthassistance@gmail.com. And in the subject line, if you're looking for a resident seeking help with the grocery shopping or any kind of activities that you would need, that's one. Just put that in the subject line. Seeking help. Or the other subject line would be volunteers. So anybody that wants to volunteer, They can walk you through the steps that have been organized, and I think it says a lot about our community that 80 people already have raised their hand to assist our neighbors. So, thank you. Those are my reports. Why don't we start left to
Got
right tonight?
Okay. On February 11th, the Millburn Environmental Commission met and they unanimously passed a resolution about the amphitheater at the zoo, and they were asking that the project be halted until a further environmental impact study was done. So then they sent that to the freeholders and to the Essex County Environmental Commission. So that all happened. Tomorrow night at the planning board meeting, we'll be discussing and possibly voting on the land use amendment that is pertaining to the Wells Fargo site. And on Sunday, March 8th, from 2 to 4:30 p.m., there's a meeting for our community where Maurice, our traffic engineer who presented at the last township committee meeting, he's going to be presenting to the entire community in town hall. He'll go over the recommendations from the PACS committee, and then also we'll have a dialogue. So you're all invited to that. That's my report.
Thank you. Richard?
Yes, so this week, the mayor and I sat down with Christine, Dr. Burden at the Board of the Board of Ed with some board members, and we had a long discussion of how the township can work with the Board of Ed to make sure that we are in sync in terms of planning, to make sure that they have enough notice in terms of activities that are happening in the township. And I believe we had a very fruitful conversation, and we are, I think there's a lot of consensus that we're going to work very closely with the Board of Ed to make sure that they're well informed as to projects that are going on in the township. And so that was one part of my report. The other part is I sit on the finance committee with committee member Eglo, and we met and we went over the finances of the township. I'd like to say, I believe Alex can touch on some of the finer details later, but we're in very, very good financial condition. Very impressed with our team in terms of our finances. One of the things that we discussed, that we adopted at the finance committee was to hire, set aside funds to hire 4 patrol officers. It's part of a wider package to strengthen our police department, to make sure that they have the tools that they need to address security issues in the township. And we've set aside funds to do that this year. There's a wider analysis that will be discussed at some point in terms of other things that we want to work on. But for this year, the Finance Committee is sending it forward to this committee, and we've taken that action.
Thank you. Diane? Committeewoman Eglo.
Thank you. So, right, we met the Finance Committee. So at the next Township Committee meeting, March 17th, there will be the introduction of the presentation of the budget. So that's really important. So, and is that, Alex, when they hand out the packet, or is it just on the screen next week?
There will be a
Next week?
presentation on the screen.
Yeah.
Also, the draft budget document will be available, and then all of that stuff will also go on the website.
Great. So this past Saturday, the township held an event to discuss gun violence prevention. This was organized by our town residents, Moms Demand Action and Brady. It was about 200 people in attendance for 2 hours. I served as the moderator for our speakers, which included Congressman Tom Malinowski, Assemblyman John McKean, 2 sisters who started an organization called Students Demand Action. Police Chief Gil Fetter provided an in-depth PowerPoint about ERPO, which is the red flag order for extreme risk protection orders. Very briefly, this is new, and it's really important that our residents know what this is. ERPO prevents individuals at high risk from harming themselves or others from accessing firearms by allowing family members, household members, and police to obtain a court order where there's demonstrated evidence that the person poses a significant danger. The firearms will be removed from the home. As I said, this bill was just passed in June, so there was a very long presentation. You can either see it on newjersey.gov or Moms Demand Action have a shorter condensed version called onethingtodo.org. And there was just so many good points raised by our speakers, and from getting guns off the streets through the buyback programs, and of course we touched on school safety drills. And one of the things that one of our residents, Nancy Kislin, who's very active in this, we're trying to find out, and John McKean and Tom Malinowski were really interested in this. Are these drills effective, or are they causing unneeded trauma for students and our staff? So we encourage everyone, as always, to reach out to our Congressman Malinowski, Assemblyman McKean, and JC. And you can always go online to Moms Demand Action, Students Demand Action, and Brady to find out about the prevalence of guns in New Jersey, what is being done to stop this, get guns off the street, and safety. If you have a gun, what is the safety protocol in your home? Ask when you bring your children somewhere or you go to a house. It has to become part of the dialogue, and this is really important moving forward. So it was an incredible event, and I was really proud that we did this in Millburn. We had people from out of town. It was wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald?
Yes, Mayor, just a few brief reports. One is, I believe at the last Township Committee, I had discussed the Locust Grove improvements. However, just a little more of an update there is that project has already been put out to bid and received, so we expect some work to be done in the improvement of the parking lot at Locust Grove, the ferry trail area, within the next few weeks. I'm sure once the weather is consistently a little bit better, Essex County will get working, or their contractor will get working on that. I had reported to the committee about some discussion and potential of flood modeling in the downtown area between the dam in Taylor Park and the railroad trestle by lots 1 and 2 to take a look at. So the background here is that the FEMA flood maps that encompass the downtown go back to 2007. The floodway and floodplain in the downtown can have an impact to the property owners and the individuals who are looking to invest in the downtown. And so it might behoove the Township Committee to take a brief look at that and see whether there's any positive impacts that can be had from any sort of work along this portion of the west branch of the Rawway. I had provided a proposal in the amount of $15,000 that would start that process. And certainly, if it's found that there's benefit to that, then you would move forward with petitioning FEMA to change the flood maps, things like that. For instance, the corner of Town Hall here is actually in the floodplain for the west branch of the Rawway River. I can tell you I've been through multiple storms here in Millburn, and the water has never gotten close to Town Hall. So, but I think there's some value in that, and certainly would like to just hear from the committee if there's a desire to move forward with that process. Would there be a consensus to do
I
that?
believe it's a worthwhile look, absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, great.
Consensus.
Good. Sure. And I believe that is it for my reports.
Great. Public comment. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, and speak into the podium microphone so that your comments can be understood by all and properly recorded. Whenever an audience or committee member reads from a prepared statement, please give or email a copy to our township clerk, cgaddy@millburntwp.org. To facilitate an orderly meeting, we ask that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes. The timer has been calibrated to count down at buzz at 2.5, which will allow enough time to complete the comments by 3 minutes. Please remember that this is a business meeting, and please do not address professionals or staff directly, but please direct your comments to me. Thank you. Does any member from the public would like to speak at this time?
Phil Kirsch, 93 Cedar Street. Good evening, Mayor, committee members. I'd like to speak briefly tonight about the planned Turtleback Zoo expansion and why this committee should endorse a resolution to stop it. And I'll probably mention several things that you all already know. You probably know that the Essex County freeholders have advanced their $8.6 million plan that would add an unnecessary 500-seat amphitheater, despite continued grassroots opposition, and once again, without any environmental impact study. You probably already know that the so-called Conservation Pavilion will destroy trees and additional protected land and really conserve nothing. You probably know that over 12,000 Essex County citizens, including many from Millburn, have signed a petition opposing the current expansion. You probably also know that a coalition has recently formed that brings together 20 community, environmental, and animal protection groups from across this region to stop the expansion. And you probably also know that over 300 people, led by local students, rallied just this past Sunday at the zoo to protest the latest plans to expand the zoo at the expense, literally at the expense, of the South Mountain Reservation. In the midst of this ongoing, unprecedented, and growing opposition, I ask you to consider and discuss publicly the unanimous Millburn Environmental Commission resolution, which among other issues points out the direct environmental and quality of life threats to Millburn Township specifically, and asks only for a halt to the project until and unless an environmental impact study demonstrates a net neutral impact on the area. Millburn Township is of course a part of Essex County, so to put the issue off to the county freeholders as if it were not a township committee issue does not seem to me to be at all valid. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to say one thing to Phil, if I may. One thing I found very interesting, I watched a clip of one of the girls, the young girls who had spoken, and I didn't realize that no other zoo, not even the Bronx Zoo, has a 500-seat amphitheater. So that was interesting to me.
Right.
Yeah.
As somebody mentioned who, I think was a volunteer at the Bronx Zoo, said there's nothing that, and it makes you wonder if it's part of a thing to do just to say it's the largest in the area, as you know, that's been kicked around too. So I think there are a lot of questions about it. But I would really like, at some point, I think we are entitled to hear what the members of the Township Committee, how they feel about this. Do they feel, whatever their opinion is, they like the resolution, they don't think it's that they're part to do it, or whatever that, we haven't even heard how you feel as individuals. You haven't even discussed this, and that's why I think it should be on an agenda, if that's what it takes, just to briefly hear your opinions. You may totally disagree with me or the 12,000 people who signed the petition, but I'd like to hear your opinions and your reasons behind it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Judy Rosenthal, 97 Main Street. First of all, I want to thank you all. In the past 2 weeks, you guys have done a terrific job on a lot of issues. Tara, I want to thank you and the Environmental Commission for the resolution that you drafted. I want to thank all of you for working on a budget. And Diane, I think the work that you did on gun control is phenomenal.
Thank you.
So, thank you. And to add to Phil's point, the surge against this amphitheater is growing. Just last month, the South Orange Environmental Commission also passed a resolution against the amphitheater, which I'm going to hand to Ms. Gotti and ask it to be made part of the record. The resolution goes through all of the reasons why they are against this and asks for 4 specific things. Number 1, that the proposed project be suspended immediately pending more consultation with stakeholders, including citizens of Essex County. 2, that an environmental impact study be performed. 3, that absent a finding from said study that the proposed project will have a net neutral environmental impact, that the project be abandoned, and also traffic and parking concerns should be addressed. And 4, that Essex County establish geographical boundaries on the zoo and the Essex County Recreation Facility to reassure the public that it will not grow without bound. I think the 4th is particularly important because Mr. DiVincenzo and the freeholders seem to treat the reservation as their own little fiefdom, and that they can do whatever they want with it, that the zoo has no boundaries. And, you know, one year it's a restaurant, another year it's a zip line, another year it's a putt-putt golf course, another year it's the amphitheater, another year it's the 3rd multi-deck parking facility. Also, I don't know if you folks are aware, but the freeholders just appropriated over $600,000 of green acre funds to redo the little train station platform at the zoo. Green acre funds. To all of you, when you pay taxes for towards green acres, do you really think that that's being used for a train station? No, that's not what the citizens want green acres funds used for. They're out of control. And I can't tell you how many meetings I've gone where the citizens are up in arms and then the freeholders vote right down the line against the wishes of their constituents. So kindly consider all of that. Also, real quick, every time I go by that little tributary of the Rahway, just let me finish this one point. You know the bridge that has the arches that go over it that gets lit around Christmas time? If you're going through the park out to Main Street on the right, there's all this foam in the water constantly. It always looks like suds. Could you please have someone study that to find out who is discharging into that section of the river? It's really almost every day. Tara, take a look at it when you go on a walk. May I hand this to Ms. Scotty?
Yes, thank you, Judy.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Harshal Gorde. I am a resident at 12 Briarwood Drive in Short Hills. I'm also a recent victim of a burglary at my house, 7:15 p.m. 2 weeks ago, pretty much the exact same time. 3 men entered my house and robbed not only jewelry, but also my sense of security and peace of mind. Now, I'm not here to allocate blame to anyone. The police are investigating the crime and it'll take its due course. I'm not an alarmist. I'm not here to, raise that this is a doomsday scenario. I just realized that though, over the last 2 weeks, there have been at least 4 more burglaries, attempted burglaries, and car thefts of my friends within this township. And that made me thinking that something was not right. Either it's an uncanny coincidence that this has happened, or either there is a systemic change in the crime in township. I moved to this town for the school systems, the commute. The one thing I took for granted was safety and crime prevention. And I realized that since the last 2 weeks, that was taken away from me. I can't take it for granted anymore. So I'm here to look at what I should be doing, what we as a township should be doing to change what I experienced. I have been talking to a couple of committee members on where we are in terms of measuring the township's KPIs or key performance indicators for crime. What have we done over the last few years? How often we check crime? How do we compare against other townships? Now we keep looking at statistics on how the schools are ranked. We keep checking on statistics on how we are ranked in terms of property prices. We have not seen, or at least I have not seen, any statistics on where the crime ranks in terms of other townships. I saw something over the last couple of days where it shows that we have increased the number of burglaries, the larceny attempts, the car theft attempts over the last year. Now, how is that? Is that a trend? Is that a systemic trend? Or is that more of a one-time thing? I do not know. But I, for one, would definitely want to understand what we as township is doing to prevent this from happening, and what can we residents do? Neighborhood watch, anything else that we should be looking at? Cops, private security, street cameras, street lights. I'm open to suggestions, but I'm willing to understand. And I'm finishing off in a minute. So while schools and property values are a great indicator, I feel that safety should be on top of everyone's list, and I hope it is on yours. So thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Manik. I'm from 251 Parsonage Hill Road. After my friend Herschel, who got robbed 2 weeks ago, last week 2 men entered my front yard, and a lot of you have been to my home, and tried to steal my cars. This is 6 a.m. in the morning. They came in, they checked both the cars. Both of them were luckily locked from the advice of Millburn Police, and they left. My home has 12 cameras, a flag, all the lights all over the place, everything detective has advised me to do. It's there. And the car they came in was the car they stole from my friend that exact morning. So it was not even in their car. There were at least 3 guys, because the guy who came to check my car came from the back, so obviously 2 front seats were busy, and the 3rd guy came in and checked and left. My concern is the safety in the town is not there anymore. These guys feel so comfortable to walk freely 6 a.m. in the morning and check cars on a well-lit house, and they just don't care. The cameras are there, they don't care. There were 3 ADT signs in the front yard, and they don't care. And the next thing on their list is to break into my door, like they did with Herschel, and attack me. And this is 6 a.m. in the morning, not in the middle of the night, when a lot of my neighbors are actually leaving for work. My request to Township Committee today is talk to police chief, engage the police department. I have talked to detectives myself. I think we have very smart people as part of our police department, but this has to be made as a priority. I don't know what else they do. I'm sure they're busy in doing other things to keep things down and keep things in control, but this has to be made priority, because right now my wife is checking all the locks 3 times before she sleeps. She has to take water, she unarms ADT, she goes down, take the water, come back and do that again. I don't know if anybody can live in their own home like that. She gets up 3 in the morning and say, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, no. And that's the state we are in. And a lot of our friends are panicked about that too. So we really request you to take this seriously. We love to hear from you and the police department. What can they do? What should we do? And we are ready to follow any directions, anything they have. But we feel very concerned and unprotected and unsafe right now in this town.
Thank you for your comments. I assure you that these will be addressed, and there will be a plan of action in place, and we will be working on that. You have our word.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to tell you also that I've been in touch with Herschel and yourself and the community. We feel terrible that people have been victimized in town, and we're on top of it, and we're going to work with our police and make sure that we give them all the resources that we can to make sure that we are all protected. And I agree with you. There's no better priority or nothing more important than the safety of our township. Nothing. So you have my commitment, and as well as other members here, that we're going to take action on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, David Cosgrove, 99 Oakview. I was looking for a report from the town about what housing projects are out there that you folks are having discussions about. And I'm not talking Woodland, we know about that. I'm not talking Wells Fargo, I mean ones that you have not talked to us about yet. What developers are out there, and what projects are you talking about with developers? Locations? I'm getting a blank stare from everybody.
I haven't heard from any developers.
Is there one on your mind?
No, Annie says, for instance, and I'm not talking, so there's none. That's the answer? Okay, thank you.
Sarah Sherman, 42 Greenwood Drive. I have a couple of questions. Anticipating the real estate development that we do know about, for example, Wells Fargo, the Saks property, and the two properties on Morris Avenue that are in Springfield. I'm wondering if Millburn Township is involved in any way in discussions with Springfield for the part of the property that is on
The driveway.
on the driveway. I know rumors abound about where certain housing will be and so forth with regard to Millburn. So I just want to know if you're in the conversation, and what can you tell us? And then someone at a township committee meeting, I think a month or so ago, referred to construction on the bridge, if I understood it correctly, across Main Street to Morris Avenue. Is that something to anticipate as well, or did I not understand that?
You understood it. And,
Can we have some
that was 2 weeks
information?
ago.
Okay.
I've reached out to the DOT. I have not had a response yet, but that project is out to bid.
Out to bid. So for those of us whose lives take us across that every day,
I've asked them. I've requested that they hold a meeting in Millburn. I've asked that they give some information so that we can disseminate it. I have not heard from anyone yet, but we'll continue to follow up, and as soon as we have information, we'll make it available.
so any guess as to how long that could take? Months, perhaps?
To hear from them,
No, well, that, but then once the project is underway.
I don't think. I think you're probably looking at least probably 6 to 8 months before the project starts. But the project itself will be long in duration.
So I think that those of us, especially speaking for South Mountain Civic Association, we would really like to know what's going on, because of course we would expect that
Sure,
traffic
so
will be
would I.
diverted.
Absolutely.
We're both affected by that
Absolutely. Well,
route. So any information would be welcome.
Sure.
Thank you.
And Alex, can I just follow up a question? So obviously 78 was built at one time, and my husband and I were driving up, and there's another bridge at Summit Avenue. So all those bridges of the same age and the same disrepair, is this something we can expect when they
No.
speak to you finally?
Yeah.
Are we talking about every bridge moving up?
I will certainly ask the question.
Yeah.
However, I think Route 24 came later than 78. So if you're going up the split in 78 and 24.
No, I'm talking about the side that's still Short Hills, Summit Avenue.
Yeah,
bridge.
that's 24.
Oh, that's 24.
Yeah, so this bridge is going over 78.
78. Okay, you're right. Okay, right.
So, but certainly a good question.
Because they're all around the same
Yeah.
age.
A follow-up question, please. Is there any possibility that they'd be doing, say, lanes on one side for a while and then perhaps?
Not that I know anything in particular about the project, but that is how they would. I mean, they cannot divert
Just-
that amount of traffic at, in one direction or both directions at all times. So. There will be, I believe, sort of a split between that. But again, once I speak to the DOT and we have some additional information, we'll be sure to share that so that there's no confusion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have? Yeah.
Good evening, all. As a few of our friends here and a few of our friends from here, they've been talking about different.
Please just state your name.
Sorry,
and your
my name is
address.
Sanjeev Vinayak. I live in Deerfield section of Millburn Short Hills. 2 Rippling Brook Drive is my address.
Thank you.
As you heard, a lot of our friends have been talking about different things. What I have seen overall in this meeting, in the township meeting, we generally don't discuss as a standard KPIs, key performance indicators, across whatever you want to, and what those KPIs are here in the township, whether that's taxes, percentage of taxes, whether that's safety, whether that's new real estate development coming in or number of apartments. But there should be some kind of KPIs that we go over, maybe top 4 or 5, as a standard to the meeting. So every township guys here are looking at it and feel safe feel good about we are progressing in the right direction. So just as a question on, can we come up with that KPI that township can have? Maybe just list it here. We don't have to talk about it, but you can see it as soon as you come in. As everybody says, if you measure it, you will get attention on it too. It's an open-ended question, but I think we should nail it down to 4 or 5 important things and list it.
Well, my response is what you perceive as the 5 KPIs and what somebody else may perceive as the 5 KPIs could be dramatically different. There could be some overlap, there could be some
All to you. Don't forget about our perception. Whatever township comes up with 5 KPIs, I'm sure they will do the research around town and they will come up with those 5 KPIs. And that doesn't mean you will include everything in there.
Right.
But those 5 KPIs, like Herschel here and Manik here said, safety is paramount. We take it for granted. We took it for granted when we moved to town. But if you see the video, people just walk into the house, check their cars. We forget about it. But if it's in the KPI, we will never forget about it. And that will be given.
Yeah.
So it's not what these guys think or I think or anybody else thinks. You guys are welcome to just make your own KPIs. But I think it'll be great to review that before even we start the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other public comment? The committee will now consider consent agenda resolution. Are there any comments from the committee or the public with respect to the consent agenda items? That is item number 20-071 through 20-075. Comments? No. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 20-071 through Resolution 20-075, which are listed on the consent agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Deliglo?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Lieberberg?
Yes. Ms. Stahl-Eglo, you are scheduled to introduce ordinance 2551-20.
Okay, ordinance 2551-20 is an ordinance authorizing the acquisition by purchase or condemnation of an easement interest in a portion of the real property located at 383 Hobart Avenue, known as Block 358, Lot 4. The purpose of this is being proposed to authorize the acquisition of a permanent easement on the corner of Hobart Avenue and Hobart Gap Road in order to enable certain signal and related infrastructure improvements to be made at that intersection. A little background, it was determined that there is a need to improve the intersection of Hobart Avenue and White Oak Ridge Road with the addition of a signal and related infrastructure. This would be to improve roadway safety at that intersection. For this to happen, this requires the township to acquire a permanent easement over a portion of this property at 383 Hobart Avenue. This is all based upon the goal of improving traffic safety at this intersection, and in consultation with the township's consulting engineers, the township has identified the property at 383 Hobart Avenue as a necessary location to which certain improvements related to the proposed signal and infrastructure improvements are necessary. So they have received a letter from our attorney, and this is putting this resolution to start this action. So I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, April 7th, 2020.
So moved. Oh, may I have a second? Sorry, I'll second that.
Oh.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Deliglo?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Lieberberg?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce an ordinance 2552-20. And this ordinance is being proposed to authorize the acquisition of a permanent easement on the corner of Hobart Avenue and Hobart Gap Road. This is in order to enable certain signal and related infrastructure improvements to be made at that intersection. And as Ms. Stahl-Eglo just outlined, this is that corner where we are going to put a traffic signal on the corner of Hobart and White Oak Ridge Road, which will certainly help with congestion and safety at that intersection. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with the law in the item and for hearing and final passage on April 7th, 2020. May I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Eglo?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Lukenberg?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes. I'd like to present an ordinance entitled Ordinance Number 2553-20, an ordinance authorizing the acquisition by purchase or combination of an easement interest in a portion of real property located at 375 Hobart Avenue, known as Block 3302, Lot 7. This ordinance is being proposed to authorize the acquisition of permanent easement on the corner of Hobart Avenue and Hobart Gap Road in order to enable certain signal and related infrastructure improvements to be made to the intersection. I think that this is all related, and this will be a huge safety plus for the township. It's something we've been talking about actually for years, and I think it'll be a big plus to get this done finally. So with that said, I move this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with the law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, April 7th, 2020.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that one.
May we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Eglo?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Lukenberg?
Yes.
Thank you.
Old business. Does any committee member have an item of old business to address?
I do, Mayor. I would like to know if the PAX ad hoc is being disbanded. We have not met, and at the last meeting, I asked if they were to schedule a meeting to have Maurice from Mazer, our new traffic consultant, update the group after reviewing PAC's 5 recommendations, which was presented to the merchants and the TC meeting. I specifically would like to know his findings on the recommendation of the reconfiguration to the entrance on Essex Street at Town Hall Plaza. This would be beneficial to allow a safer turn radius into Town Hall Plaza. It's been 3 years and the Jersey barrier is still there due to the crash hazard by the physical impediment of the guy wire. This plan also creates 15 to 20 additional parking spots. This would allow Town Hall Plaza to be used for what it was intended, a cut-through from Essex Street to Millburn Avenue without having to go all the way to Douglas Street, the end of Essex. Especially with Wells Fargo planned to be developed, this is a needed improvement for circulation. It may also deter drivers from cutting through the parking lot at Nancy and David's, which causes a conflict within the Dunkin' Donuts lot. And lastly, speaking of the Dunkin' Donuts lot, Alex, I asked you about the blinking pedestrian alert light at the crosswalk. I believe we were given a price for that, and this could be done without any construction disturbances. And I did reach out to you for an update, and I haven't heard back. So I figured this would be the time to bring it up.
Sure. So I do have a price on that pedestrian activated crosswalk. It will be in the ballpark of about $4,500. Actually, I had stated a price before, and that's why I don't give out numbers sometimes at meetings. But it's going to be much cheaper than the 11,000 that I quoted before. So, if the committee is agreeable, we will move forward and make sure that gets installed in relative expediency.
I actually may have a slightly different take on this. I mean, I've been working with Maurice. We've been presenting the PAC's plan. Personally, I have a lot of confidence in Maurice, and I think we're at a juncture where we should ask Maurice, now that he has delved into the PAC's recommendations, he's worked with us on the committee. I think we should give Maurice an opportunity to actually make a professional suggestion over what he thinks we should do on an immediate basis. He's a professional. I've worked with him, and I'd actually like to know what his professional recommendation is before we really do anything.
Well, I did ask if we were having a PAX meeting, which he would present that to the committee. So there are members of the PAX committee, Richard, please, who have asked if we're meeting again, and I said, I don't know. So, Jackie, are we disbanding the ad hoc? Or
No,
can we have a meeting with Maurice?
Well, maybe, I think the next thing would be to discuss with Maurice and have him make a presentation to all of us. He can make a public presentation, and maybe we can get that on the agenda for the 17th or the April 3rd to discuss this with him.
Okay, sure. I mean, we can discuss, sort of what the best route is, in terms
Well,
of.
we're gonna have one more meeting on
Yeah.
Sunday, so, and then let
That's,
him
which
kind
is a
of.
community.
Right, but we
community
gave
meeting, let
Maurice
him-
the PAX findings a couple of months ago, and we still don't, has his company reviewed them? Has he gone over what Stantec did? Does he have his own ideas? What has Maurice done with those plans? We've presented them, so we know what the merchant said,
Well, we have one more meeting, so I think we should just
Which
take
is-
this step by step.
but
And
the step,
also-
what does
and,
Maurice
well,
say?
Well, but-
He's listening and he's also incorporating, that's why we're having the meetings, like we're
I
trying.
understand that, Tara, but
Okay.
if he's had our information, what, has he come up with no recommendations or resolutions or findings?
I think the best thing to do at this point is if there are those two items, and the short answer is specifically and not necessarily. What he's done is he's reviewed those so that he could present to the public as was requested by the township committee. So if the township committee desires some sort of input on, in particular, those other two items, the crosswalk and town hall plaza, perhaps it's best to ask Maurice to look into those items, give a report to the township committee rather than asking him to come present in a meeting, but rather furnish you with something that you can review.
That would be great,
And-
but,
And
yeah.
also just keep in mind that the meeting that is on Sunday is for residents that may not be able to come to a township committee meeting. So we've heard from the merchants.
Well,
and
it's for
that-
residents and merchants, it's
But
for the
it's
entire
both, but
community.
but the point is that it's a wider audience, not just merchants.
Okay, so whatever's gonna happen is gonna take time. Why would we not want to put for $4,500 a pedestrian activated blinking light there that can go up without any disruption, where people are finding that is a problematic area? Why would we not do that? It can be moved, it can be used elsewhere, but now, again, so no safety concern will be addressed there? What would be the reason for not doing it, Richard?
Because you spent a year on the PAX committee coming up with this plan that you decided at the last minute to flip on.
No, Richard, I speak to a lot of people who do, no,
Okay,
excuse me,
no,
Richard, let
but
me,
isn't that the case?
Richard,
Isn't that the case?
You're
Didn't
right.
you lead an
Let-
effort to
You are
do
so
this?
right.
Wait,
I know,
we're
but-
in a business meeting,
yes, you're
please.
right. So, Richard, I
So-
did flip, but I
Please,
didn't
please,
flip
please, we're
on
in a
my-
business
no,
meeting.
it isn't, I'm discussing business. This was not my personal recommendation, it's just talking to many people,
You
including,
wanted a referendum, if I remember,
I'll still take a referendum.
right?
I'll take it.
Well, we have,
I think we just said that, we have a plan, let's move on.
So my
Maurice,
question
let's
was
look
that,
at
my,
it.
okay, my last question on the table is, why would we not want to put for $4,500 a pedestrian activated safety, which could be put up in a very short amount of time, instead of just leaving another, what you all felt is a very dangerous crosswalk? And I will say no more.
because Maurice, who's a professional, may want that crosswalk moved. He may decide that we might need bigger blinking lights. He may have an opinion as to what those blinking lights what those blinking lights will be. And for $4,500, as long as we have him and we're paying him, he's leading this effort, why don't we at least see what his recommendations are? I've been complaining about the Dunkin' Donuts, crosswalk for a long time, and I think it's an urgent matter. But as long as we have a traffic engineer who's excellent, let's get his take on this and then move on.
Okay, so I will just close that. It's an urgent matter. We could put a light there in a matter of a couple of weeks, or we could wait to talk about a potential disruptive construction, which could still happen. And you still might want to use those blinking lights when you move the crosswalk.
Well, let's make sure that they're the right blinking lights, Diane.
Okay. Any other items of old business? Any items of new business? May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Absolutely.